Hello, pipes. I know I already showed you kind of how to do it. Let's break it down because piping is a really useful thing from a readability standpoint. I did not learn about piping until, frankly, pretty recently on the actual logic behind it. I could use it, but it was kind of adapting other people's code. So let's actually walk through what piping is. So in programming, piping is a technique where you are passing information from one process to another. You're piping it. So in our example, we selected our data frame, hotels, and we passed it into the selected function, where we then selected variables lead time and hotel from the hotels dataset. And then we passed that data frame through the arrange function so that we could reorder our data in descending order. So it went from most lead to least and just took a peek. So, just as fun fact, the pipe operator is implemented in the package magrittr. And so, although we don't need to load this package explicitly, I just want you to know that it is its own specific package. But tidyverse loads it for us. Tidyverse is actually a collection of packages and libraries. And so when you load tidyverse, you actually load a ton of others, including ggplot, dplyr, magrittr, and a lot of others. So it saves you some time. So, as an activity for all of you, I'm going to let you think about why this package might be called magrittr. I think that song is copyrighted, so we will not be using it. This might give you a hint. No? Okay. I will let you guys figure this one out. So, backing to our regularly scheduled program, how does a pipe work? So you can think about it as a sequence of actions. So let's use a human example. How do we get to a park? So what we do is first, we could write this as a series of nested functions. We find our keys, then we start our car with those found keys. We then drive with that car that we've started, and we drive to work, and then we park it. Now, if you were to look at this without already knowing what the order of operations was, as we've had it written above the slide here in plain English, it would look like you park, you drive, you start the car, you find your keys, and you do something to work, like if we were to read this as a human being, which is not easy. I've gotten pretty good at sight reading R, so I already kind of instinctively know to work from the inside out, but it can be tough to figure out where that inside is, where that kernel is. And so piping lets you read your code in a way that is kind of logical and just human readable. So if we were to do this with piping, and anytime you do any kind of function like this, anytime you pipe, in theory, you could also just redo it as a nested function data structure, or series of functions. But here, we're going to find our keys and pipe that into starting your car, and pipe that into drive to where we've specified to is to work, and then we apply all of that to park. You start from the inside out here too, but you've translated it into left to right. Okay, so what about other arguments? So there are a couple others, you can use the dots. So dots is a way to send results to a function argument other than the first spot. Or you can also use the previous results in multiple aspects of your argument. So instead of having hotel go to the first spot in filter, or I lied. So hotel, it does go to the first spot in filter, which it filters only hotels that equal resort hotel. But then we apply a linear model to that, but we don't put it in the first space because for the linear model, there's actually been some recent upgrades in doing tidy modeling. It's making its way as of the date of this filming, which is February 5th at 2 p.m. 2021. But in this case, here, like, you can move the pipe somewhere else by putting in a dot. Because in linear models, the first argument is not data. I think the last argument is data. But anyway, you can pipe it in wherever you want with a dot. Okay, so additional notes about piping and layering. So that piping signal, so that percent arrow, the percent is the symbol for piping. It's used mainly in dplyr pipelines, where we pipe the output of the previous lines of code as the first input to the next line of code. Now, in ggplot, we're not piping, we're layering. So part of this is just like the different grammar philosophies and how these are merged together. It's a weird historical thing that, like, no one needs. I mean, I know it, but, like, you don't need to. But anyway, you can use the plus sign to add another layer onto your plot. So a plus sign is just smack another layer on top. It's similar, but you're not, like, channeling it all through. You're just, like, adding on another layer. Kind of like those old school Scholastic books where you had, like semi-transparent layers that added. That's how I think about the layering aspects of ggplot. And to add a layer, use a plus sign, because you're adding. Okay, so, like, you can't do the layering in dplyr. It doesn't like it. It's going to be very unhappy with you if you try that. It'll spit out an error like I've reproduced here, versus if we use a pipe. So pipe for dplyr, plus for ggplot. Alright, here we go. Kind of reiterating that. If you use a pipe for adding a layer, it won't. It's just going to be freaked out. Usually ggplot's pretty helpful in, like, reminding you of this, but because we're kind of, like, using both of these and you're learning them right around the same time, they might get fused in your brain. So I'm going to just further fuse them and confuse you. So yeah, so it doesn't like piping. Instead, you gotta use the plus sign to add a layer. Okay, so another little bit about code styling. While art is kind of the Wild West and it lets you do things in lots of different ways, most of the there are style guides. If someone I will do my best to link to the Google style guide that I should use, but tend not to. But the general rules are consistent across piping and plus signing. You always have a space before your plus sign, and for pipelines that are more than 2 lines, you always add a line break. So, as is illustrated here, So we've got our ggplot, our main piece, and then we've added a layer onto geobar. It's all in one line. Sure, that's nice and efficient, but it's not very readable. And typically we are not writing code where the benefits of compressing and reducing the space between, because technically the file will be bigger. A save file that includes this piece of code is going to be slightly bigger than one that is this piece, because this uses fewer characters. In reality, the cost and efficiency is not worth it in the trade-off for human readability. In general, I encourage you to write code that is human readable to you, because you're going to be looking at it, and other people, if you want to post it on GitHub, they will see it, and you want it to not be a burden for other people to read it. And so one way to do that is to implement spacing after commas, in between equal signs, and plus signs in piping, and then move things to new lines. It makes it more readable. And apparently I forgot to list the Google source, so I will maybe animate this. So yeah, that is wrapping up this piece on grammar, and I'll see you later. Bye.